All right, Andrew. Thanks for coming on to the Real Experience today.
Thank you, Jared. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Reminder to all the viewers today, the Real Experience is an acronym for Realize Every Aspect in Life. The goal of this channel is specifically made impossible to make us realize that life is a journey and not a destination.
So me and Jared and I, we've been friends for a while, and we'd like to listen to a lot of information, share it, and we'd love to be sharing it with you guys now too. And one of the books that you were telling me about was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. What can you tell me a little more about that?
Yes, I absolutely love that book. It's Elon Musk's favorite book. It's actually philosophy disguised as humor. And it makes it very ironic throughout the book because there's certain aspects where you read other books that the principles in this book correlate, but they're so sarcastic that you're laughing at the principles the whole time because it's taken to such an extreme extent.
Yeah.
So pretty much the book starts off, and Arthur Dent's on planet Earth. He has his friend of 15 years at the bar with him, and he is told by his friend that he's actually not from this planet. He's from the planet Betelgeuse.
BT.
Or from the planet near Betelgeuse. And he informs Arthur that the Earth is going to be destroyed in 15 minutes to make an intergalactic highway across the galaxy for all the other beings. So this book goes and they catch this ride on this spaceship because they're getting off of the planet before it gets destroyed. While they're on this ship, they find a room filled with all kinds of archives of the most intelligent people that ask the most important questions from a different planet. So they go into these archives and they literally are watching the videos of people asking a robot that they built. They specifically built a robot to answer the question, what is the meaning of life?
Shit.
What is the meaning of everything? What should we all do? So they ask the robot that, and they're all excited. And the robot says, well, I'll need some time to compute that answer. Come back in 7.5 million years.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
So they want to get the answer, and there's no chance that they'll even get the answer. It's obviously going to be generations.
I can't even imagine. I 1 year goes by and I don't even know what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once again, this book is sarcasm, so it skips over time and fast forwards 7.5 million years.
Sure.
Now, all these people from this planet are so excited to finally get the answer of what is the meaning of life, what is the meaning of everything, what should we all do? And the crowd's roaring. They're standing in front of this.
I'd be sweating.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweating.
Like, this is it. This is what everyone's always been waiting for. So the robot says, yes, I've come up with the answer. I finally got the answer. And the answer is, behold, and they all cheer, and the robot says, 42. And their shoulders just drop, and they're all just depressed. They don't know what this means. One person says, that's the dumbest answer I ever heard. And the robot responds to that by saying, you fools, don't you understand until you know why you're asking the question, you'll never get the answer that you want.
Sure. I was a little disappointed when you said it, quite honestly, when you said 42.
Yeah, exactly.
I was waiting for something big, dude.
So it's funny because she says, why, you need to know why you're asking the question before you'll get the answer that you want. Now, when I was reading Dan Strutzel's book on 30 Days to a More Powerful Vocabulary, he talks about a lot of keys to success. And in that book, there was an author, Jim Rohn, and he liked to say that the reasons were the key ingredients that made any goal achievable. The why is the key to how a goal becomes achievable. He said that if you had enough reasons to reach your goal, your ability to eventually reach that goal was virtually guaranteed.
Yeah.
So they wanted the question in the book, but until they get the answer of why they're asking the question, it's meaningless.
Sure.
So let me give you an analogy. This is my analogy for if you're chasing any goal in life. I'm gonna take it into 3 stages. Okay, imagine that I lay a 100-foot plank of wood across the ground, and I want you to walk across it.
I cartwheel over that thing.
Yeah, no problem. There's no issue.
For sure.
Okay, so we all know that. That's you picking out a goal. That's you going towards it. Now, we hit the second stage of an analogy. I'm going to change some variables. Let's take that same 100-foot piece of wood and let's put it on top of 2 skyscrapers. There's nothing holding it down, nothing connected, and I just ask you to walk across that 100-foot plank of wood. Would you do it?
I'd love to say that I would, but I definitely would not.
Yeah.
I would not do that.
The risk, what? You might, something
Just
bad could happen.
No.
And that's not worth it. And that's human nature.
Plane could give out. I mean, I could,
The wind could pick up. You could step on the wrong side and start to tip the piece of wood.
God forbid I didn't tie my shoes. Yeah,
anything.
Yeah, no.
Now, the reason that why is so important to success is because it's the motivation. It's the driving force. It's the feeling. It's what you need to achieve the goal. So now let me change the third variable. Let's take the same 2 skyscrapers, put that same 100-foot piece of wood across them, connecting them to each other. But now this time, you're standing on building 1, and on building 2. Building 2 is on fire, and on that roof is the person, pet, or loved one in your life that you love most in your life. And they're stuck over there. Would you cross that plank of wood?
Yeah, I probably would. I'd count my blessings and just.
Do you know why you would cross it?
Not.
The conclusion that I came to is that when your loved one is sitting across on that building, you would rather go forward towards that goal and die trying than live with yourself after not doing it and living with the regret of losing out on that. So my advice to anyone who has a goal in life, if you're not willing to cross that plank of wood, you better come up with some more why reasons. Otherwise, the second you hit an obstacle in life, you're just going to give up on it.
That's very true.
You're not going to keep moving forward.
That's very true. Yeah, the why is very, very important. I've noticed that in my own life. Even if I didn't read that book or have that knowledge, it definitely drove me to do the stuff that I've done, for sure. 100%. Yeah.
And what's interesting is everything's always backwards. Everything, you think you want something, but what you really want isn't always necessarily right in front of you the way you think. Now, a great quote from Marcus Aurelius in the book, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
Read that one, yeah.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great book.
It was good. Very good.
One of my favorite lines in there is Marcus Aurelius says, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way.
Yep.
The obstacle is the way. So typically, the route that you think you want to choose is the least resistance, but to get the most growth out of yourself as a human, an individual, you need to know.
Yeah.
You need to challenge yourself. You need to attack those obstacles because you're not growing when everything's going good.
Right.
You're growing when everything's hitting the fan.
Yep. Yeah.
So now, getting back to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you would think that once the robot says, you fools, you must know the reason why you're asking the question before you can get the answer that you want. You'd think that would be the end of the book.
Yeah.
But it's not. Of course, it's sarcasm. So now everyone in this society decides, you know what? Instead of asking what's the meaning of life, what's the meaning of everything, what should we all do, they decide if why is so important, let's ask what is the most important question? What's the greatest question that we can ask? What is the ultimate question, is how they say it in the book. Mm-hmm. So they ask the robot, we want to know this answer. So what is the ultimate question? The robot responds, that question's much more specific. Come back shortly and I'll tell you the answer. So the short time period passes and a lot of other things in the book happen, but I'm staying on the why principle for today. So a few things pass in the book and then they come back to this robot. And now it's time for them to get the ultimate question. Finally, now it's going to get revealed. So they ask the robot, what is the ultimate question? And the robot says, yeah, I got bored with discovering that. I built another robot simulation to answer that question for you. So once again, just a big giant letdown. Yeah. So then they go, okay, where is this other robot? Where is this simulation that we can discover the ultimate question? And that robot responds, that's going to be pretty difficult now because Earth was destroyed 15 minutes ago for an intergalactic highway. So the reason that's so important is because everyone wants to know this ultimate question, this ultimate why, but you're actually here on Earth to discover your very own why reasons and meanings in life.
I do believe we're here to create. A lot of people think that, there's a set path, set destination of before you came here. I mean, we had rockets of desires before we came here, I think. But initially we are here to create more of them and to find what we would like to do and what we'd like to experience. I mean, that's just kind of what I've come up with. I mean, I've been in situations where I had to get myself out of it. And I don't think I think it was placed there by me to experience something specific. And then I did, and I was able to grow in that way. I'm sure you've had some experiences pretty much similar.
Absolutely. In fact, even in the 1500s, there was a quote on how humans even exist. And the quote that's very famous that everyone knows, because you brought up rocket ships of desire. Mm-hmm. And this quote says, I think, therefore I am.
Oh.
The desire alone is what caused you to be here in its own unique way.
Right. So in a way you are your thoughts. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some people, such as Alan Watts, they take it even a step further. They look at everything and they break everything down into, who are you? What are you? And that's an interesting question because all of this is me right now, so we think. But what happens if I chop off my fingernails and I set my fingernails here?
First of all, that would hurt a lot. That'd be painful.
What if I just clip it with a regular nail clipper?
That makes me feel a little better. I got a little stressed out anytime with the whole fingernail. Say, what were you saying about?
So if I chop off my fingernail, the question would be, is that me?
I mean,
it was, but now I chopped it off. Is that me? So Alan Watts keeps taking this further, and he says, well, if I chop off my finger,
oh my God, now we're okay.
Is that me?
Sure.
If I chop off my arm, is that me?
Right.
And it keeps going until you realize, like, what is me?
That's hilarious. I never really thought about it like that.
And
that's so funny.
And Alan Watts is he read Buddhist, Mahayana Buddhist. He read Zen Buddhist. He studied the Hindu religion from the Sanskrit and the Bhagavad Gita. and the Christian religion.
Sure.
And in the Hindu religion, they believe that there is Maya, which is here, this earth. And Maya actually translates into playtime or play and illusion. And then the ultimate God is considered Brahma. And Brahma's translation is thyself. So from their perspective, he says, eventually people will be looking out so far, and they'll look out into the stars and see all the way out into the galaxy. And one day they'll wake up and they'll say, oh my God, that's me. Because from their belief, who you are is everything that you're aware of. Because you're not your body. Yeah. You're not your emotions. You're not anything of that. You're the awareness behind all of that.
Right. I agree. We are the space in between. We're no thing. And I know the Bible talks about it a lot. Lift a stone, there I am. And it's always an I am, always. And it's very important because, I was unaware when I was a lot younger what God even meant. A lot of people didn't. I was 9-10 years old, and I went to a Lutheran school until 7th grade. And even until 7th grade, I still didn't know. And they didn't seem to reflect on the idea of what God was. It was more so, remember this Bible verse and write it down, and you have to say it in front of the class and all this stuff. And it was like, how is that? I didn't feel a part of the Bible. I felt more so restricted.
Kind of told how to live.
Yeah. And that's what kind of messed up the whole Bible experience for me. And then I started to get into reading, and then I understood all these words that were just replaced from the Bible, just maybe it's kind of like a newer way to explain the Bible. A lot of the books that I've listened to, and once I started to do that, it was like I could really start to digest information differently and utilize it in the way that I needed to for success in certain areas of life. It was, yeah.
So once you started reading all of these books, did the Bible have more meaning to you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Bible was a whole different book.
You're a new person, so it's a new book.
I memorized it out of love for it, not because I had to, and that's all they had to do, was they had to teach us kind of what the feeling of God was. That's what schools miss a lot is, you can sit there and talk about God, but I think it's important for us to feel what it is so we can always go back there and experience that. So when we talk about it, we can always go into that feeling, and then we can expand from there. Because if we're expanding from words or expanding from quotes that we can't feel, then we're not I don't believe we're growing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Because everything's energy. So if you're not understanding it, how can the energy move?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. Thoughts are only thoughts, but when you add feeling to the thoughts, they get exponentially, they just get way stronger. So in that sense, I think it's very important in explaining and expression and creation and knowing who you are. If you don't know what you're feeling, how are you going to know what you want or, who you are? Even the thoughts, if they don't connect to what you're feeling, then it's not the rocket ships of desire aren't going to be strong enough to take you across that plank.
Exactly.
So it's crazy. And that's why I love all the information and new ways to express yourself and create. And because I do truly believe that's what we're here for sure.
I definitely agree with that. Connecting that to the Bhagavad Gita, there's some interesting perceptions in there on what is God, because so many people try and act like they know God. Their way is correct. No other way is correct. And one of the things that I found that I liked so much about reading that was God to them, the definition is everything that we cannot explain.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't explain what God is. I can only
Right.
explain what he's not, because he's
Right.
everything. So from my point of view, it's only relative to this scope when there's Earth, there's the galaxy,
Right.
there's many more galaxies,
Yeah.
there's the entire universe, there's
Yeah.
all of this. And if he's the creator of all of it, how can I describe what that
Yeah,
is?
you can't. You can't. Even in the Power of Now, the way he explained no thing, Eckhart Tolle, the way he explained it, it was so interesting. The way he used certain words to bring your attention in between thoughts, in between your reality, in between kind of here and there, because that's where you're going to find yourself, and that's why I like that book a lot.
All right, you brought up an amazing question that I love to ask people, because in The Power of Now, it talks about the only thing that there is the eternal now.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing else. So what does that mean to you? I could say mine first if you want me to go first, a connection that I made. Otherwise, I can say it after.
Yeah, go first. Go first, because
So honestly, with reading the Bible, there's so many interesting perspectives in there that don't always get revealed. And where was I at? The Power of Now in the Bible.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things is once you realize that there's nothing but the eternal now.
Mm-hmm.
There's no past. There's no future. There's just this present moment, always happening spontaneously.
Yep.
I find it so interesting that so many people want to go to church and do what the church says to reach heaven,
Mm-hmm.
when the Bible literally says, if anyone tells you, lo here, lo there, search for me, you do not need to, for the kingdom of heaven is within you now. So what does that mean? Because the eternal now, it's like people are trying to reach this state, but it literally says in the book, the kingdom of heaven is within you now. So my thought is if you're not in heaven now, you're not going to be there, because there's only the eternal now.
Yeah, to me, it seems like being in heaven is more so finding that vantage point to gratitude, love, acceptance, even hope. Actually, I'm writing a book on that as well.
Do you have the title for your book yet?
It's gonna be Restore Your Echo. I mean, it was on the screen, but we have a HDMI problem. So, it was Restore Your Echo, and it's always talking about how. So basically, you want to go north, right? So that's just like the main vantage point. You want to go, even in the Bible. It's
Keep moving up.
Yeah, North Star. So basically, what I have is love, gratitude, hope. Everything is going. That's all north. But then you have, greed or guilt and hatred. That's southwest. East or whatever. So whenever you are east, south, or west, obviously it's not going north. So you're not in heaven at that point. So you're not facing gratitude or love. So you're not in the idea of expression or creation. You're more so in a past or future, obviously, reference. Instead, you want to go north, which is more present. And that's because heaven can really, to me, only be found in the present. Is that?
I agree. If you're not there now, it's what is it?
Right.
You're gonna suffer to get there. Like some of that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and so church, something like church and Sunday, and going. It's cool, and I think that people should and could go to church and be happy. But to me, I think that you should be more so doing your homework throughout the week. Finding that gratitude and love all week long. And then on Sunday, you go and meet up with people that have also been following their north on love, gratitude, everything. And then it's more of like a celebration. It's not so much as it's not really much of a teaching, because you can obviously get taught some stuff and you go home and learn it. But how much are you really going to learn in church, especially if you haven't done the homework throughout the week to go there and express yourself?
So if I could summarize what you're saying, it's not necessarily church there's nothing is against, we're not against church.
No.
We're advocates of anyone going to church.
Time, yeah.
Absolutely. But if I'm understanding what you're saying, that wasn't as important to you as when you started developing your own relationship with God?
Yeah, I would say for sure. I didn't understand. Well, let's say this. I'm going to go back to not being able to understand what church was until I had a feeling of what God was, until I could really actualize Him within me. And I think that's everyone, because obviously God is within all of us. He's in life. He's in a tree, under a rock. I mean, He's everywhere. So that being said, once you can really grasp the feeling, it makes more sense to then meet up and celebrate His feeling. So for me, I would like to express that feeling with more people. And that's kind of what I do with my work. So with Echo Restore, I do, I'll just dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. Tell me more about your business you're starting.
It'll make more sense. So basically, when I work with someone, so what I do is it's more so, it's hard to say, because it's somewhat spiritual, it's somewhat psychological, and there's obviously a couple more ways to explain it.
Almost on an energetic scale?
It is, because everything's made out of energy.
Of course.
Obviously Einstein,
equals MC squared. So, mass can be converted into energy converted back into mass.
So in general, when you're doing anything, almost it can be energetic. It really can be. Even if you're eating the right food, that's still energetic. You know what I mean? So when people get a little shy from the word energy, healing, or it's like, well, it goes to a standpoint of when you are, let's say, walking down the sidewalk and you trip, maybe you hit a crack and you fall over, scrape your knee, actually hurt your knee kind of bad. Then
and that's never happened to me.
No, yeah, no, not.
I'm invincible.
Yeah, for sure. No, so yeah, the crack is a little bit more raised than usual. Not cool. They should probably take care of it, but they didn't. So you tripped over it, and then you're just trying to get to the store as well. So you trip over it, hurt your knee, and then you're like, "Oh, that hurt," whatever, and then you kind of brush it off. You go to the store, and then you come back home, and then maybe a week later you got to go to the store again. So you walk there, and then you see that crack. And then you remember the time frame of you scraping your knee, and then your knee maybe even hurts a little bit from that. Or maybe it didn't even get fully better. You never know. It depends how bad you hit it, what you were going through at that time, whether you had enough water in your system or not to process everything that just happened. So basically, your subconscious will store that information of you tripping over the crack, feeling what you felt when you tripped over it. And then what happens is when you don't get enough water, or you're just having a bad day in general, so you're just processing a lot in general, it'll store that somewhere in your body, causing you physical pain, most likely where the injury occurred in the first place. So when that happens, it's almost in there forever until you can find a safe place to release it. And that's what people have forgotten. How
so they bottle it, they hold on to it.
And they store it in the body because they don't know what it is. They don't know, even if it's been a long enough time, they don't even remember where it came from. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, in 20 years,
they repress the memory.
Yeah, and within 20 years, and their knee still hurts, they're not going to assume it's a crack, but it could have been the start of a chain that was broken. So anyways, so basically it stores that, and then what I would do is I would kind of tap into where. So how I'm gonna dive into how this works a little bit more, because
can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
Did this all start with the book, The Energy Code?
There's a, as far as the information, or
as far as your practices going forward.
So there's a lot of different books that I listen to. I even met up with multiple spiritual healers. as well. And it's almost like a collective, it's pretty collective knowledge over the past 5 to 6 years. So, and there's just so much I could say in general. But yeah, so it's pretty much collective. Obviously the emotion code is good. Energy Codes book by Dr. Sue Morter is also good.
She's a Harvard professor, right?
Yeah, so she has her MD, and her story is very interesting. It was very awakening as well. She visited a lot of different parts of she went to different countries, and the way that they lived, it was just beyond what America could do as far as being free from so much just trauma and stuff. Because obviously, like I said, we store a lot of information here.
Well, let me pause you right there and grab a book really quick that I believe is connecting with this.
Yeah.
You know, with America, you were talking about, they couldn't grasp necessarily what other countries were doing. And I find this quote in this book very interesting. This book is The Power of Positive Thinking, written by Norman Vincent Peale.
Yeah.
And in this, he said, many people are destroying their physical bodies by this pace. But what is even more tragic, they are tearing their minds and souls to shreds as well. The character of our thoughts determines pace. When the mind goes rushing on pell-mell from one feverish attitude towards another, it becomes feverish itself, and as a result, bordering on a state of petulance. The pace of this modern life must be reduced if we are not to suffer profoundly from its debilitating overstimulation and super-excitement. This overstimulation produces toxic poisons in the body and creates emotional illness.
Yep.
Now, there's one thing I want to ask you. Do you agree with everything he said there?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think Norman Vincent Peale would say now? Because this book was written in 1952.
Yeah.
We didn't even have fast food chains back then.
No.
And he's talking about the pace of life being too fast. So with what you're saying about energy, it makes sense on why Americans have a hard time releasing this, because every time that we're focused on something, it's the next goal. It's the next thing. We're never resolving the spiritual side, the energetic side that's flowing through our bodies.
With phones, distractions, everything, like people just want to feel good all the time. And
instant gratification.
And that's part of the issue as well. Instead of releasing it to feel good, they'll find something else to cover it up instead. And that's what we've been taught as well.
I find that very true.
Yeah.
And it's good and bad because it brings up a lot of past failures, learning these lessons. You get kicked around, and you think you know what's best. And you're not ultimately that smart. I think I want something, and what I really want is the feeling that something's going to give me.
Yep. Our bodies can only do so much as well. I know it's very intelligent. Our bodies are very intelligent, but
they're self-healing.
Yeah, and that's the thing where if we push them to the limit without getting the right resources, we're gonna have issues. So
absolutely. So where is what do you do to find the balance in life? What are some things that you do?
So what I do, I meditate sometimes. I used to meditate a lot more before I got into all this.
You were the one that got me into meditation.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, because truly being honest, if I couldn't meditate anymore, I wouldn't want to live. It's changed my life that dramatically, because I am, there's a book called The Highly Sensitive Person by Elaine, I forget her last name. It's Elaine something. And I am. It's HSP. It's a highly sensitive person.
Yeah.
And it's got its pros and its cons, as everything. Everything's got its equal and opposite reactions. And one of the gifts that you have being a highly sensitive person, if you're extroverted, is you can go into a room of 20 people that you don't know, put on a mask, be exactly who you need to be, read the micro nuances in the room, adapt to that, and be perfect. Walk out of that room, go into a different room across the hall with 20 new people that think completely different, and you can put on a mask and adapt to that completely, which is its pro. But its con is that because you can adapt and do all of that stuff so easily, you can easily deceive yourself and get lost. Because I'm wearing a mask, and if I'm wearing a mask too much to try and do this, try and do that, I need to sit down, lay down, cover my eyes, meditate, go to a deprivation tank, and really hit another level of relaxation of, instead of trying to control, letting go.
Yeah. Letting go is huge, and people don't even know what that means. And that's the most difficult part, because it's like, what am I letting go of? And it's like, okay, well, I'm mainly letting go of the series of events that are emotionally charged in a negative way. Because you can have obviously positive affirmations that you've affirmed with yourself, through what you would like to achieve. Obviously, they call those affirmations, which then become a belief because it's a repetitive thought. But when you have an emotional stimulated event that is negative, like tripping over a crack, scraping your knee, you're going to not want to go to the store the same way. You're going to not want to experience the things that you could experience if you took that way, because you are then just associated with that negative event.
Past traumas.
Right. So that's what I do, is I tap into the awareness of your energetic field, and then I release the imbalances that were caused by that situation, that event. So a lot of the time I have to know certain vibrations of the feeling, whether it would be terror or trauma or whatever. So
when you did a session on me, mine was resentment, and I kind of despised you for a day or two because you hit me so hard. I was holding on to this resentment, and this it was resentment, and the other one that you had for me.
Dude, there's a lot there, and there can be a lot.
Worthlessness. It was resentment and worthlessness, and literally there are so many times where I would reach these highs and then feel worthless for no reason. And it wasn't even until you told me at 18 years old I'm getting resentment and worthlessness, and me knowing what happened in my life at 18 years old, I was a little shook.
Yeah, it's crazy, and like I said, the body is so crazy. It's smart, it's intelligent, and I don't even know the capacity of how intelligent it truly is. And I've been doing a lot of subconscious work, and just even in general, the way that your body can detox. I've been doing a detox now for about 8 months. I've been on a detox. And
detox from what?
So this is almost a whole podcast or story in itself, but I'll kind of get into it just a little bit. So when I had cancer from the age of around 19,
Yep.
I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I was able to beat it, but I was only able to beat it in a standpoint of when I could find emotional balance within myself. So I had to do a lot of releasing, meditating for the treatments to even work, because I kept relapsing, and I truly wasn't going to survive unless I could figure out a way to let go of what I was holding on to.
So I just want to stop you right there and ask, when you were going through this, what was your motivation, your why reasons to get you through this? Because honestly, when you were going through it, when it started, I remember it was supposed to be 2 months. Yeah. 2 months, you're done, it's over with. And then 2 months passed, and then, well, you need 4 more months. And then it got to the point where you told me that you were going to be getting, I believe, stem cell transplants.
Yep.
And when you showed up at my house, that was honestly one of the sadder days of my life, because it was me, Sarah, and my two friends, Aaron and Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
And when you walked in the door, they didn't even recognize you.
Yeah.
And 6 months earlier, you were my roommate living right across the hall from them, because you had no hair, you had no eyebrows.
I honestly couldn't even recognize myself. And I would say the why, or the how, or whatever that was, at the time. Obviously, I was 19. I was courageous, and I wanted to take on the world, and that helped a little bit. Obviously, the other part of me that helped was I knew even before I got the cancer that I wanted to help people in a very special way, and I did not know how I could do that at all.
So, connecting to our book earlier, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way.
Yep.
The obstacle is the way. Do you think in your own unique way that you subconsciously manifested cancer so that you could overcome and help those very same people?
That's tough. I do think in a way, yes. Did it have to be that traumatic? Maybe not. With everything, with the toxins and the food we have nowadays, the way even kids are born, just all this stuff, it can really weigh down a human being, and it can do it fast. And I think that's kind of what happened to me. And I do think that the rocket of desire for helping people in a special way definitely created the lack of it. I think so, 100%. And how deep it goes, I am not sure.
I appreciate the honesty, because everyone who's selling something for a business it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
This is the only way.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to restore the body. I've learned that, and I've just found what to me seems like the most efficient ways. But in general, really with the cancer stuff and everything, it really just, it got me to realize who we are, what I'm here for. And, it really did help me narrow down, what I need to be doing, to help people in that way, for sure. So what was the question again, as far as where were we headed with this?
Just the original one of what were your why reasons to overcome this?
Yeah. So overcoming it, I knew if I got over the hump, the situation, that I would be way stronger than ever. And I didn't know how. I didn't know when.
But you knew why.
But I knew why, and by the time I got to the end of it, I learned quite a bit. But then when I really, because that whole time I was narrowing down how I can heal myself even more, right? And that was kind of what I've affirmed to myself. I want to be one of the best spiritual healers in the world, and that's what kind of drives me as well, because I know how valuable it is going to seminars and being around spiritual people, how much they can touch the heart of other individuals and do it so easily, swiftly, and super impactful.
I agree with that, because they say that you are the collection of your 5 closest friends.
Yeah.
Take the income of your 5 closest friends, and 5 years from now, your income will be that average of those 5 friends, kind of going along with the quote, fins of a feather flock together.
Yeah. Yep.
So you get into the seminars, and now you're associated with like-minded people, and now you're not creating necessarily that resistance.
Right. And I'm just so it was all a journey, and I do want to go into it more in detail, obviously a different time as well. But as far as that goes, I know we were talking about the detox. So after all of that treatment, everything, I had restored myself almost emotionally. Obviously, I'm still working that. It's a journey. It's not really something you can just get, you can't get rid of the issue.
Said that. That's
what
the real experience is about.
You can't just snap and then, and so so yeah, once I got done with that, I was like, I still had issues. It seemed like I needed to resolve, and I'm always analyzing them all the time. I'm going through like, what is this? What is that? What is this? And then I'm breaking it down, trying to understand it. Obviously, maybe it's not the best thing to do, but I think it is what it is, and I'm kind of learning in that way and growing in that way. So, and I kind of enjoy it to a standpoint because I'm just so used to it now. But yeah, so once I was able to get a lot of the emotional stuff out, I started to realize that my candida, my bacteria, the stuff that I had gotten treatments with was stored in my body, and that's when I started to make really, really big changes.
You're talking like the chemotherapy, those kind of treatments.
So I got into proteolytic enzymes, and so basically protease enzymes, they break down proteins. And when I started to take those, I almost felt like I was going through my treatments again. It literally made me feel like I was in the hospital bed and I was getting treated. I would get the same ringing in my ear. I would feel the same way in my stomach. And I felt like that for almost 3 weeks. And it was like almost like I had to get rid of the residual of what had been given to me in the hospital. So when I started to do that, I started to realize how important it is to restore the body through nutrition, enzymes, and a bunch of other different, different stuff. And I also knew that enzymes broke down biofilm. Biofilm is created by a colonization of toxins and candida and all that stuff. So once I learned about all that stuff, I really started to take some enzymes, and then I changed up my diet. I now don't do bread, sugar, or dairy. I haven't for probably about a year now, I would say. And I even went on an extensive diet of just no sugar, not even fruit, under 20 grams of carbs a day. And I was already 155 pounds. So it's like I dropped to 135. Probably wasn't the best idea, but it's obviously a learning experience. And then I actually now had gotten into Dr. McComb's plan, where he talks about undecanoic acid, which is derived out of castor bean oil. So castor bean oil castor bean obviously has a good source of vitamin E, all that stuff. It's good for hair, skin, and nails. But basically, it's mainly the undecanoic acid that is inside of it. It's technically a fatty acid that it's somehow, and they even don't know how to express it fully, how the undecanoic acid breaks down candida. So when you're going through like something like how I did, I had a lot of antibiotics that were flushed through my system. It throws off your gut bacteria, it throws off your candida. And then once that happens, it turns into a bad candida that can then start to cause inflammation and just pathways of inflammation. So I do believe that it can cause a lot of problems that people all over the world are having. And so I've been getting into the candida lifestyle as far as balancing that, because it almost seems like if you go on Netflix and you watch, have you seen the Netflix documentary where they talk about, it's the fungi. I think that's what it's called, fungi.
I have not.
You should watch that, because basically what it is they talk about oil spills, they talk about all this other stuff, and they talk about fungus and how it breaks everything down. So when a tree falls, it's gonna fall down, and then it's gonna decay. And then mushrooms are gonna grow on it, because they can grow on almost anything and break everything down. So in a standpoint of, if we were, that tree, or what we ate was that tree, the candida, everything is breaking it down. Okay, well, how is it breaking it down? What is it feeding? Is it feeding good candida? Is it feeding bad candida? Like, what is it feed? How is it running through your body? And once you can understand that, okay, like maybe it's a candida problem, then you're more so on the right track, because that's what breaks down your food. It breaks down, the toxins. It breaks down the good stuff.
So, what would you have to say about Socrates' quote when he says, every time we eat food, we are either fighting disease or feeding disease? Is it that black and white?
So, yes and no. Yes, I think it is black and white for sure. But when you get into something like antibiotics, it throws off your whole system so much that it can sustain itself now for a long period of time, even if you do eat well. You can eat very well, but if you have pathways of inflammation caused by bad candida or like a bad yeast form, then it still can just keep sustaining itself because you don't have the right gut flora to stabilize your system and your body. I'm sure you know that when you're born, you are born from your gut, your stomach. Your stomach is the first thing to be developed, and then it expands from there.
The theory behind that is because when a single cell organism starts, it's just a stomach, and it actually just absorbs nutrients, and that's why
it expands.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with the bad candida. If it's thrown off, then, and if it's reaching other areas of the body, it's stimulated from the gut. So really the gut health is huge and one of the biggest. It's big, and you can take care of a lot of problems by changing your diet. That obviously causes inflammation and all that stuff, and getting rid of the candida problem and just realigning. And obviously if you've been through something traumatic, and they give antibiotics almost to anyone, and I'm sure they have
for everything. Yeah, it's like candy nowadays.
And I'm sure it can help in certain standpoints, but when you do take it, you should go back to the candida diet, and you should, go back and realign it, readjust it, because it's going to be out of whack.
Because we know that antibiotics kill not only the bad bacteria, but the good bacteria. Yes. So we need to refeed the good bacteria so the bad doesn't overgrow.
Right, and that's why your stomach just does not feel good when you take it. So, and it's like, and if it doesn't feel good, that means it's not good.
Hi, Tommy.
Hi, Tom.
Come here, buddy.
Hey, come say hi.
Everyone, this is Tom in Boots.
Yes.
He's joining the podcast today. Hi, baby. Hi. One of the things that I found that keeps bringing me back to you with Echo Restore and your spiritual healing is everything that you're doing is releasing. Releasing, getting rid of excess, where people want to control. And when you got me into meditations, first off, when I was doing them alone by myself, it was pretty stupid because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of breathing and doing stuff. So I started doing guided meditations to learn some techniques.
Yeah.
And one of Shakti Raval's guided meditations, he says that letting go is one of the keys to manifestation.
Yeah.
And he says that letting go is much easier than we all think because we're actually letting go all the time. And he says, hi, baby. He says, if you don't believe that you're letting go all the time, try and control your digestion. Try and control your heart rate. You're not in control of all of that. That's happening spontaneously, automatically.
Yeah.
So then he tells you to meditate, get into these thoughts, and he gives an example of trusting the universe, which is kind of along the lines of the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things that he says is, in order to manifest, you have to let go. If you are constantly conditioning and changing and force, you're not allowing anything to flow through you.
Right.
So he gives the example, if you go to a restaurant and you order food, do you insist to go back in the kitchen and watch the cook up your meal, prep it, plate it, everything? No. You trust that you ordered the food and that server and that cook are going to get you the food that you want. So if you can trust the universe as much as you could trust your local restaurant, you could virtually manifest anything that you've ever wanted.
Right. And that's where it comes to, where are your thoughts at? Where are your beliefs at? What are you affirming every day? Are you affirming that the world is friendly towards you? Or and that's a question that you should ask yourself. How do you feel when you say it, because obviously you're not going to be able to create properly if you don't think the universe is for you. And that's obviously a big thing. And they say it in The Secret all the time with Einstein, and how his most important question was, is this world or universe friendly toward you?
It's funny that you bring that up too, because I actually have a quote hanging in my car visor that says, "You get in life what you have the courage to ask for."
Yeah.
And it kind of goes along with how we started the book, or started the podcast with the book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You fools, you won't get the answer you want until you know why you're asking the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I always, whenever I flip my visor down, it's there. You get in life what you have the courage to ask for.
Yeah, that's very true, because I didn't know why I wanted to help people, and the universe definitely showed me why. I went through 13 cycles of treatments. I had to find my emotional distress and release it.
And you can't wish that upon anyone.
No, it was something that I couldn't. In my worst enemy, I would not want them to bear that, and I'm glad it did happen, though. I mean, I would not have learned as much as I did. That being said, if I knew what was coming, I don't know if I could do it again. It was just.
It's funny that you say that, because it's so easy to go from coach to first class, but it's not that easy to go from first class back to coach.
No, and I'm not. Yeah, and I wouldn't be worried about it in general of anything. I mean, I think that everyone should seek a care provider when they need to, but I haven't been to the hospital or the doctor in about 5-6 years, really. And if I did, it was to get stitched up, and that's something that I'm proud of, because I went from having it, relapsing, and it not getting better, to the point where I am fully confident that I am healthy and that I am in a good state of health. So for me to feel that way after having cancer for almost a full, year, 2 years, and in and out of the hospital, to now I am in control of my own reality. And it's getting from there to here is just, it's not, I haven't seen a lot of people do it. They seem to play a victim role, and I did play a really big victim role. And once I was able to release that and work on it and get rid of the whole victim aspect, because we're not victims. We all just need to take responsibility for the manifestation and the creation that we are involved in. And so once I started to realize that, I could really start to grow.
I actually pulled up, this is a poem that always reminds me of you, and I'm not going to read the entire poem. I'm just going to read one line. Mm. But one of the things that I've always noticed you do very well is it says, "If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat both the postures the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, then you are a man, my son." And it's just so ironic, because when I look at you, through your ups, through your downs, you're always analyzing. You're not in this elated state because you're up, and you're not in this depressed state because you're down. You've really kind of mastered your emotions and can deal with triumph and failure and treat them both the same. Yeah. That's something I really admire about what you're doing.
Thanks. Yeah. Once I realized that it's not important to feel really good, that's when I could really start to stabilize my life, for sure. I feel like a lot of people look to feel really good. That's why maybe they go out at night and they get, they go get drunk, or they go hang out with friends, and in ways that it's overstimulating. And I learned that when I'm in overstimulated situations, it may be fun. I don't really find them fun anymore. I used to, because I thought that's what was important. But once I realized what was important, and keeping my energy system clean so I can help people at a high level, once I learned that, I didn't find them to be fun anymore. I found them to be terrorizing, because when I would go out or do anything, I just went out a couple weekends ago And I didn't drink because I don't drink, and my detox doesn't permit it as well. So,
yeah, it's kind of hard to detox. Can't be even chugging
no,
beers.
You can't do that. I know. So if anyone wants to drink while they're on a detox, don't do it. Your immune system's down. It's just not going to work.
You hear that, Tommy?
Yeah, no drinking. Tom. Yeah. So cheese curds too. Try and stay away from those. But yeah,
So
no.
good.
Yeah, I know. So seriously, that's why I brought them up. Otherwise, so. But yeah, no, where was I at? Oh yeah, so I went out and I was just kind of staring around, and it was crazy to me because usually, even back in the day I would drink a little bit and I'd have fun and loosen up, but I didn't feel like I needed to loosen up. I didn't feel like I needed to fit in anywhere. I really didn't feel like I fit in, but I didn't feel like I needed to. And just kind of watching around, it just made me feel a little sick because just everyone seemed a little bit lost in a way where I didn't know. Like usually I can understand where someone's going and what they're doing, but when they're there, I don't understand it. I can't see a point of interest. All I see is them diving into situations that they hate and then expressing them when they're out. And I actually ended up absorbing a lot of emotions. And it was to the point where I almost wanted to cry because I just had so much going on at once. I got no sleep. I wasn't drinking water because you can't really bring water into the bars. And I'm so specific with what I drink. I'm not drinking tap water.
Sure.
So that being said, I was tired. I was dehydrated. I was absorbing all this stuff because I'm so used to connecting with people on a high emotional level that then I can process and release for them or with them or whatever, however it works. So when I was there, I just couldn't process it and everything. And I all of a sudden just started taking all these emotions. And by the time I got to bed at 4 a.m., I woke up and I just felt, you remember I was in the sauna with you and I just couldn't even get my head up. And then later that night, I kind of took a nap. Later that night, I kind of woke up from my nap and all of a sudden I had this really big pit in my stomach and I thought the world was ending. I literally so then I started to realize how many events I was absorbing during that time, that night out, just that one night. And it was over, it had to have been over 30, 40 emotions. And I think it was because I didn't drink. So I was so conscious, but also unconscious at the same time, where it was like I was aware. But I feel like when I did drink, I was less aware of people's emotions, stimulation, all that stuff. So I didn't really focus on it as much. But since I'm so used to being aware of all that stuff and understanding their echo or whatever.
And from a different perspective, I understand where you're coming from because it's a tragedy. I don't want to bring this up in any way. It's just an example. But typically when a drunk driver gets in an accident, the drunk driver's never hurt. It's the other person.
Sure, yeah.
Because they're just so loosey-goosey, unaware.
Right, yeah. And there's so many things I could get into on just negative stuff that happened in your life. I mean, I do believe that a lot of things that happen, whether it's just negative in general, I want to say, I just want to keep it broad. It's already stored within your system. So that crack that you tripped over, it wasn't that you tripped over that crack a long time ago. It's just maybe replaying and then bringing another series of events that creates a chain. And that chain becomes so strong that it breaks. And then maybe your knee will just not feel the same as it did when you were 21. You know what I mean? And so that's really kind of what I do. I kind of tap in and release those emotions that were caused by that event. And they can be even inherited emotions and all that stuff. So,
can you talk a little bit about inherited emotions?
Yeah. So inherited emotions are,
because we inherit everything. Whole energy.
Yeah. And everything's, we have, this world has momentum. It has flow. Before we were born, there's already that momentum. Obviously, there's a thing with energy. I'm sure you know it. Energy in motion stays in motion, right? So if everything is energy and your inheritance, your mom, dad, grandparents, it's all energy and it's all flowing, right?
Yeah.
So if it's all flowing, then you have to attract some of it, unfortunately. And when you do, you can obviously choose to act upon those inherited emotions or not, because I think that some people are very good at not giving their inherited emotions attention. Some are very good at giving their inherited emotions attention. And I think the people who do give those emotions more attention are the ones that are sensitive. Like you were like me. I mean, I was so sensitive when I was a kid. I got to the point where everyone just thought I was super shy, and maybe I was shy, but I didn't feel like I was shy. I just felt like I could feel everything. So I didn't. Yeah. So I didn't.
It's funny that you say that, because you're a highly sensitive person, but you're introverted. Mm-hmm. I'm a highly sensitive person, but I'm extroverted, which is usually not going hand in hand. 98% of all highly sensitive people are introverted. There's only 2% that are extroverted. And one of the things that was interesting is when I was a little kid, I hated dirt under my nails. Mm. And I hated to walk on sand. Sure. And I was so sensitive to textures. That's literally so to this day, I don't eat pie. I don't eat cobbler. I don't eat any kind of whipped cream. I don't eat pudding. I don't eat yogurt. I don't eat Jell-O. I don't eat marshmallows. I don't eat oatmeal. Weird. Anything that's got that slimy texture, I can't eat. Well, when I was a little kid and we would go on vacations, I would always bring my sandals on the beach. Well, my mom was so worried about me that she thought I had OCD. So when we would walk on the beach, she would make me take off my sandals and walk barefoot just so I wouldn't get so stuck in these OCD ways.
Rude.
But she didn't even understand, but she was just doing her best to have me deal with it. Let's just, do what you fear and the fear goes away, which is really smart. But at the same time, it was just a texture thing.